What's going on, guys? It's Spud here, and welcome to episode 60 of the Roundup. I completely forgot to do it last week. In all honesty, I do really apologise. So in today's episode, we'll just quickly be briefing the last 2 weeks of Call of Duty action before we go to Major 1 tomorrow. And Major 1 is obviously going to be an exciting one. It is going to be in Dallas. OpTic are hosting it. Who's going to win? Will we see some drama? I honestly, I've gone for a bit of a bold prediction. But with how the standings look, there isn't really a standout team going into this major. It is kind of all to play for, so we'll have to see what happens. Kenny's had a couple of better series statistically. What's his future look like on the LA Thieves roster after this event? We'll have to see. But it's going to be an exciting one nonetheless. So if you are new, please do subscribe to the channel. It is free. We should have also a little episode for challenges open. If we don't do that, we will do it on Roundup Extra. So there will still be a challenges episode. It just might be a small snippet on the Roundup Extra instead. That'll just be decided when we get to it, of course. So obviously I'm looking forward to it, but we are just going to start with obviously. Oh, we also have our ladders, of course, as well, which obviously will drastically change after the major, as you'd expect. So we're going to get straight into it now with the matches. So we'll just have a quick look through them all. So we started with getting a Google advert. We started with Surge versus Heretics, and this was a very simple win here for Heretics. However, Overlord has become very tactical in terms of defensive play now. But this was a very good series from Super, and from Trex, and from Metals. And it was a 3-0 here for the Heretics. Like I said, we're not going to be watching any of the footage. It's my fault, of course, I am sorry. It wasn't intentional, obviously. I can't remember if I had any plans. When do I normally record? What was my days at work? I'm trying to think. I went out on Wednesday, and then obviously it was my birthday on Thursday, and then I went out with my friends on Friday. I was going to record it on Friday, and I just was like, I'm just not going to do it. The Riyadh Falcons beat Gentlemates 3-1. The first hard point was crazy. Now, I actually put money on Falcons to win at 3-1. And after the first half, I was like, well, I've just lost £5, and they won and got me £20, so pretty good going. It was a good series here from Falcons. Pred, the MVP here on the other side, Neptune, statistically having a good series. And then we have Saturday's games, last Saturday's game, sorry. Heretics versus Breach. This was a good weekend from Heretics last weekend. They win 3-1 here, pretty close first map. Trex is definitely improving on this roster. I think on the other side, the Boston Breach have dropped off a little bit, especially I think Snoopy has definitely not is definitely struggling a bit compared to when he started. Then we had Koi Royal Ravens. I expected Koi to win this, but Royal Ravens with Exceed have genuinely become a decent little team. Now, can they do it on LAN? That is the main question. Exceed with a 1.19 on the other side, Joe Deceives 1.27. As always, Joe Deceives with a good performance, but this is what we expect from him. We don't expect this from Exceed. Regardless of what happens at the major, Exceed has definitely done himself good work here, and his future in the league looks secure for now. Because a lot of people are like, oh, you're replacing him, Slasher, with Exceed. It's just not going to work out, and it is working out for them so far, and fair play, because I didn't expect it. Moving on, we have got FaZe Vegas versus Cloud9, and this was a very, very convincing 3-0 here. Everyone playing well. A 1.69 there from O4. Very good showing there from O4. But again, this is kind of what we expect from FaZe. Obviously my bold prediction was they wouldn't win an event. Let's just see what happens. They've had good weeks, they've had bad weeks. It's hard to tell at the moment what's going to happen. And then we had Cloud9 versus Boston Breach. This was a game 5, but the game 5 was a 6-0 win. It's a reverse sweep here from the Breach. Nasty with a 1.34. Obviously, he has been the best player on this team all season. But a good showing there from Boston to get the reverse sweep because they need the CDL points. And then we have G2 Minnesota versus FaZe Vegas. And this is what I mean about FaZe. we just they're so we just don't know what to think of them sometimes. But 3 maps in a row, G2 Minnesota taking it here, and it's a good showing from everyone on that G2 side. But Draza and Simp had an awful having a bit of a rough one there, but the Simp's had a good season, so we're not going to look into it too much regarding like MVP, like how the MVP ladder is and stuff like that. We're not going to really look into that. And then we had where are we at? OpTic versus Thieves. Obviously, this was like seen as like, how's Kenny gonna do? Is this gonna be the end of Kenny on Thieves roster? And he goes and gets himself MVP with 100 kills and a 1.28. Now, obviously, I'm very disappointed with how OpTic played here. I've been disappointed with OpTic for the last couple of series, to be honest. And I'm hoping that they'll improve soon. But a really good run here. I'm really happy for Kenny. I like Kenny. He's obviously won OpTic, a world championship in the Call of Duty League. So I've obviously got massive respect for him. It was the right time for him to have left OpTic last season. I think him being replaced by a Challengers player, in my opinion, that isn't a Mercules is just stupid. And we'll have to just see what happens with him. But obviously a good showing here from Kenny definitely keeps him on the roster for a bit longer. But obviously for Kenny it is about Major 1, of course. And I think if Thieves have a good tournament, and I'd say a good tournament is probably at least the top 3, you know, the longer they get to Championship Sunday, Kenny should be okay. So then we have this week's games. That was obviously a very quick roundup of last week's games. And we start with OpTic versus Royal Ravens, and I expected OpTic to comfortably win this. And yeah, they lose 3-1. Not good enough. Nero and Lurks, very good showing from Lurks. Obviously, he's a rookie in the league. But yeah, this is a disappointment from OpTic. They need to look at themselves, because is this just going to be a repeat of last season again? Because it definitely could be. I still have faith in them for now, but we'll have to see what happens at Major 1. And then we have Koi versus Gentlemates, which is obviously going to be one of the matches in the upcoming event. It's just taking a while to load. And this was a 3-2 win here for Gentlemates. Obviously, these two teams are pretty similar in ability, in my opinion. You know, they could definitely make a good push at the event. This one, however, was won by Gentlemates, who have had a really good start to the season, especially when all their players that were picked up were free agents. But looking at it, I think that Gentlemates and Koi are both okay going into the major. Now, they will play each other, of course. Gentlemates are the 1 seed and Koi are the 8th seed, but a lot of teams in that 5 and 2, 4, 3, 3, 4 bracket, so we'll have to just see what happens there. But I think it will be a good showing from both in their match. But obviously, then I said about Koi, you know, they're looking good going into the major. They just get absolutely slammed by G2 Minnesota here. And this was a massive result for G2 Minnesota. A very good performance as well. If you look at the stats here, Mamba 1.27, Estriel a 1.47, MVP of the series comfortably is Estriel, a 2.5 on the S&D. He's looking good. This G2 team, I'm still not sure about. We'll have to see what they're like at LAN. I would like them to do okay. They play FaZe round 1, so it's obviously going to be a difficult game for them playing FaZe, as you'd expect, but we'll have to just see what they can do. I think they've definitely got a good chance, though. They've beaten FaZe in the Monster Invitational, but LAN is a different story. It'll be Mamba's first CDL LAN event. Estriel and Kremp obviously haven't won anything on LAN. In terms of the CDL, obviously Skies did win World Championship in a few majors with New York Subliners, but that was obviously a long time ago, so we'll have to see what happens. But a good showing there from G2 nonetheless. With this current Koi team, it looks like Joe Deceives is the main threat, and they need to be able to have a plan B, because if they don't have a plan B against, in a situation where Joe Deceives is having a rough series, they're just going to lose. And then we have the Falcons versus Cloud9 New York. And this was a 3-2 win here for Falcons. Celium, Exnid. Look at Exnid. Yeah, Exnid MVP. Might not have had the KD, but 103 kills. And do you know what with Exnid? He's actually impressed me quite a bit so far on the Falcons, because I thought, oh, now they've got Celium on the team. Now they've got Kismet. Yeah, Kismet might have had a bad season last season, but we know how good he is of a player. And you look at the situation and think, oh, is Exnid actually going to be out of his depth? But he's shown that he's comfortably a solid player on this Falcons team who go 5-2. They've got more wins this season than they did last season already. Falcons team definitely an outsider to win an event, but we'll have to see how they play on LAN. And then we have Thieves versus Boston Breach, and this was a very close series from Boston Breach. They managed to take it to a game 5. Well, sorry, Thieves took it to a game 5, but it was won by the Thieves in the end. Everyone positive on the Thieves side. This is going to be an MVP for a Beezy with a 1.16, plus 13 in the plus minus differential. On the other side, Purge, who's had a couple of rough series recently. He needs to be firing his gun going into Major 1 because otherwise, he could struggle quite a bit. And Boston starting losers, I think. I think Boston play the loser of Phase G2, but obviously I've already made my prediction. We'll look into it when we get onto that screen. And then we have Paris, we have France versus Spain, we have Gentlemates versus Heretics. 3-1 here for Gentlemates. If we have a look at the stats, Metals with a bit of a rough one, Sib with a bit of a rough one, but Neptune, who for me has been very solid all year, manages to have a decent series here. Now Ghostly, a bit of a rough one. Regarding obviously MVP ladder, it's very difficult MVP ladder. I think whoever gets Major 1 MVP will probably be first on the ladder, because at this moment in time it's very difficult. Where are we at now? So then we have Thieves, Ravens, and Exceed, sorry, has gone 5-0 since joining the Ravens. They win a round 11 against the Thieves. This is crazy. Thieves almost reverse sweep. Scrap with a really rough series here, by the way, 0.89. Exceed genuinely is doing what Neptune did last season, but just nobody in their right mind thought Exceed would be the player that could transform a team. No one in their right mind ever thought it would be Exceed that could do this, but he's doing it. And fair play, because he deserves a lot of credit for what he's done. He's done a fantastic job on this team. Fraze, who for me has been the best rookie so far this season, with a bit of a rough one here, but they win the series, so it's fine. I never thought in a million years Ravens would be 5-2. Yeah, it's crazy. And then our final game of the Major 1 qualifiers was a DoorDash 3-0 here for FaZe against Vancouver Surge. There's the stats, yeah, 0.7, 0.8 across the board for Surge. Abuser and Simp, the highlight here for FaZe. They've probably been the best 2 players for FaZe this season, I would say as well. And we'll have to see how they do at the Major, of course. So that was obviously all of the games. Like, yeah, there was a lot. Because we obviously had 2 weeks worth of qualifiers there to go through. We're going to do MVP and Rookie of the Year ladder first. I just think that would work a bit better in this instance. So we're going to start with Rookie of the Year ladder. But first of all, we're going to actually we obviously put the webcam off for this, and because obviously I'm going to have the webcam off for the predictions as well. We're just going to do it like this. So we're going to start with the Rookie of the Year, because there's only been 6 rookies, but we have changed it up a bit. For me, personally, Legend is obviously 6th. He's not in the league anymore. For me now, comfortably, Abe is 5th as well. And then I've put Traix in 4th from Miami Heretics. He's obviously had a couple of good performances recently. And then it was a very, very close between Mamba and Lurks, but I've decided to drop Mamba down to 3 and Lurks up to 2, because he obviously had that really good series against OpTic. And for me, Craze is still number 1, but this is actually an interesting Rookie of the Year race, because last year we knew it was going to be Rencor. Yeah, Mercules was the best rookie, but obviously he didn't play for much of the actual season, so he was never going to be Rookie of the Year. Which you can kind of expect. But I think this is going to be an interesting Rookie of the Year because for me, none of these rookies have gone, oh, like they've not done like a Mercury and gone, oh wow, like they're so good and stuff like that. None of them have, but they definitely have the opportunity to improve. Um, and I am interested to see how they improve and like what comes next for these guys because there is obviously going to be a lot of pressure on them going into the major. Um, because obviously you don't want to be called onliner, you want to actually be able to show that you can perform at the highest level against the best players. So we'll have to see what happens for them. Now, obviously, the MVP ladder is definitely going to be different after the major. Maybe this was a bit lazy that I've kept. No, I don't. I think Mercules deserves to still be at number 3, and Ghosty still deserves to be at number 1. But like I said, there hasn't really been any standout players for the last couple of weeks. So there has been a bit of a movement, like I said. So I've gone Ghosty at 1, Simp 2, Mercules at 3 still. I've put Neptune at 4, Dashi at 5, Celium at 6, Exceed at 7, Jaw Deceives 8, Abuser 9th, and Hydra 10th. And I'm pretty happy with that order for now. But like I said, I do think that that's going to change massively going into the I do think that's going to change massively going into the after the major. But we'll obviously have to just see what happens. But I'm pretty happy with that for now. So it's now time for our it is now time for our predictions. Going into obviously major going into major 1. I keep forgetting what fucking major is. So I'm hoping obviously it's gonna be a good event. This is the bracket that we have. So yeah, it's a bit small, but it's Gentlemates versus Koi, Royal Ravens versus Thieves, FaZe versus G2, and Falcons versus OpTic. So we've got a couple of really nice games there to start off the bracket. And with teams we're not knowing how good every team is yet and what their potential is. There's going to definitely be a few upsets, of course. And I'm really looking forward to it. I really am. So we're going to start off with Koi versus Gentlemates, which obviously they've just played online. It was 3-2 to Gentlemates. I'm actually going to go a 3-2 the other way, and we're going to start with a bit. I would say an upset with Koi beating Gentlemates, and Mates going down to lower bracket would be a shock based off their start. But honestly, it's one of those games I think could go either way. And obviously, because most of the Koi players have played together on LAN, obviously the only one that hasn't is obviously Real hasn't played with the other 3. I'm expecting something decent here. We'll have to obviously see what happens, but like I am expecting a pretty good showing from Koi. But we'll have to just see what actually happens. Then we have Thieves versus Ravens. I think Thieves will get their revenge on Ravens. I just don't think Ravens will have what it takes on LAN compared to what they've been doing online. And that's just how life is, ultimately. I wouldn't say that as a bad thing. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Thieves beating the Ravens. And then we've got FaZe G2. I think this will be pretty straightforward for FaZe. I'm going to go with a 3-0 or a 3-1. FaZe will beat G2 and send G2 to the lower bracket where they'll play Boston. And then Falcons OpTic, and a bit of bias, potentially you could say. You could also say maybe I'm thinking of home advantage. I am going to go with OpTic beating Falcons just because they know how to play with each other on LAN. So I'm going to go with OpTic beating the Falcons, but obviously that's one that could go either way. I wouldn't be surprised if Falcons won and Pred starts getting loud. Let's just see what happens. Then we have obviously our losers games, Mates, Heretics. Unfortunately for Heretics, they're obviously a decent team, but I just don't think they're going to be able to take down Gentlemates. So I'm going to go with the Gentlemates, knocking out Heretics for a top 12 finish. Ravens Surge, this one will actually be very close on LAN. I think it'll be a game 5, but Exceed and Nero, I think, are just gonna... They're gonna have what it takes, and I'm gonna go with the Ravens. G2 versus Breach, again, this one could go either way. And I feel like I'm gonna regret going with G2, but I'm gonna go with them. But I think Boston might win, but I've gone with G2 now, I can't change it. Falcons Cloud9, I'm gonna go with the Falcons. And then Thieves versus Koi. Winners round 2. I think Thieves will win this one 3-1. But then again, Koi destroyed Thieves recently, didn't they? They absolutely annihilated them. I'll go with Thieves, because I think Thieves are going to prove a point here in this LAN event. That's my prediction, is that Thieves will do very well here. So Koi will obviously go to the bottom half of the losers bracket. FaZe OpTic, unfortunately, it's going to be another season where FaZe beat OpTic most of the time, but then OpTic potentially will finish the season off as the better team. I've gone with FaZe here, beating OpTic. And then we start with the loser bracket, round 2 games. We have Gentlemates versus Falcons. No, sorry, we have Gentlemates versus Ravens. Unfortunately for Ravens, I think that they're just going to be not as good here to beat Gentlemates, and Gentlemates will go through to the next round. But let's not rule them out. Honestly, Ravens, they could go on a run. Falcons G2 for me, easily Falcons. Mate versus OpTic. I just don't think OpTic are in the best place right now, and I don't know what the problem is. I'm gonna go with Gentlemates. Falcons Koi, again, this is going to be a game 5 situation, but I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go with the Bulldog. Rough. He's going to pop off here. Falcons win this one 3-2. Take Koi home. Send Koi home. Go to Championship Sunday. So then we have Mate versus Falcons for top 3. And I'm going to go with Gentlemates. They're going to losers bracket run here and get to the losers final. Unfortunately, that does obviously mean that Falcons will go home. But I think Championship Sunday for Falcons would be a very nice start to their season and good CDL points. And then we have FaZe versus Thieves. I'm going to go with Thieves to get to the winners, to the grand final, sorry. But they will have a rematch with FaZe. Yeah, I think it'll be a Thieves FaZe final. We'll have to see what happens, obviously. Could be different, but that's my prediction, is a Thieves FaZe grand final. But it's going to be a good major. And it's going to be won by the Thieves. Now, I know this might be a controversial take, but normally when I predict a team to win, the event, they normally don't. So, we'll have to see what happens this time around. But it should be good. It should be a good event. I'm looking forward to seeing it. Hopefully, I'll get to see a decent amount of it. Obviously, I don't know for sure of how much of it I'll be able to see, but it should be able to be most of it. And obviously, I'll make sure I can watch grand finals. I do wish, obviously, OpTic were in better form going into this event, but look, let's just see what happens, because you never know. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. I hope that they'll win, but obviously you just can't be sure that they will. And yeah, that's my bracket. Let me know who you think's going to win down below. That is going to be the end of this episode of the Roundup. I do really appreciate the people that do watch the Roundup, so thank you for that. Because it does help me out a lot, and it does mean a lot, so thank you for that. That is the end though. Make sure to like the video if you've enjoyed, subscribe if you're new. I'll see you next week. I'll let you know if there's going to be, if we do, if we, it will be the main. If we do a challenges episode as well, the normal one will be before the challenges one. So I'll explain then if we're going to do an extra video or not. But thank you for watching. Thank you for 60 episodes of the Roundup, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.